Hey everybody, this is Zan Barksdale with Catching101.com. Today I've got an interesting slideshow for you. It's the Major League Baseball demographics from 2011 opening day 25-man roster. This does not include the disabled list. This only includes the active 25-man roster on opening day last year, 2011. As opening day 2012 gets closer, I thought it would be really interesting to do some research and see exactly what makes up a Major League Baseball catcher. What does the average Major League Baseball catcher get paid? How tall are they? When did they sign? A lot of interesting things like that. All the information on this slideshow has come from MLBDepthCharts.com, MLB.com, USAToday.com, and also BaseballReference.com. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the slideshow and figure out exactly what is an average Major League Baseball catcher. The first question I asked is, how many catchers are on the roster? The common answer what most teams have is 2. Every team had 2 except for 2 teams had 1 and 3 teams had 3. The Orioles and the Rangers each had 1 catcher, which is kind of abnormal, and that's basically due to an injury. A guy would come off the disabled list shortly after the season started. And then the Angels, the Yankees, and the Dodgers, they all had 3 on the active opening day roster. But the average team has 2. Most teams carry 2 catchers at all times. So with all these catchers that the teams have, for me, I was curious whether they came from high school, college, or were they international free agents. Now, since I'm a college coach, I know that most of the college players, most of the Major League Baseball players come from college. However, most people probably didn't know that. They probably thought that most Major League Baseball players signed out of high school. Actually, there were 31% of the Major League Baseball catchers signed out of high school, 46% signed out of college. That could be a junior college or a 4-year school. And then the other 23% were international free agents. Kind of interesting. I think a lot of people assume that most of the catchers in the big leagues or most of the big league baseball players sign out of high school, but that's actually not true. Most of them sign out of college by the numbers. To be exact, there were 28 catchers in the big leagues that came from college, 19 high school players, and then there were 14 international free agents. So breaking down the college numbers even a little bit further, were they junior college players or did they come from a 4-year school? 75% of the catchers came from a 4-year school and 25% came from a junior college. To be exact, 21 catchers came from a 4-year school and only 7 signed out of a junior college. The round that these guys are getting drafted in is kind of interesting. The average round of this is just the active Major League Baseball catchers on opening day 2011. The average round of the catchers that signed out of high school were drafted 7.8. So they were drafted in between the 7th and 8th round on average. The junior college catchers, the round they were drafted in is 19.8. And then the average round of the catchers drafted out of a 4-year school is 3.9. So you see there are more college catchers in the big leagues, and they're also getting drafted higher as well. Now, there were 2 catchers in the big leagues that were non-drafted free agents. This means they were American players. They're Ryan Hanigan and Rod Barajas. But other than those 2, all were drafted or they were international free agents, not non-drafted free agents. Now, one interesting thing that I think everybody's curious about is how much do these guys get paid? Well, first of all, in 2011, the league minimum was $414,000. So I think that's an interesting number to keep in mind while we're going over these salaries. The highest salary was Joe Mauer of the Minnesota Twins, who was making $23 million in 2011. Now, the average salary of all the catchers is $2,244,650, which is quite high because 32 catchers made less than $1 million. But there were a few catchers, there were 3 guys that made more than $10 million each, which kind of threw off the average a little bit and raised it up a little bit higher than what seems normal or what seems right. The 3 catchers that made more than $10 million were Joe Mauer, Jorge Posada, and Victor Martinez. Another interesting fact, I think, is how many years did these guys spend in their minor leagues before they made their major league debut? The average Major League Baseball catcher spent about 4.5 seasons, or 4.6 seasons exactly, in the minor leagues before making his Major League debut, which is an interesting number because the average for all of Major League Baseball players is about 6 years. It's longer than probably most people realize. From the day that you sign your professional contract until the day you make your Major League debut, on average is 6 years for a Major League Baseball player. For catchers, for some reason, they seem to be making it up a little bit quicker than other positions at 4.6, which is kind of an interesting fact. Now that we know how much time they've spent in their minor leagues, let's talk about how many years they've spent in the major leagues. Once they make it to the major leagues, it seems like a lot of guys tend to stay there. As you notice, the most interesting number on this sheet, there were 15 catchers that have 10 plus years experience. Now there's only 60 total, about 60, but 15 had more than 10 years experience. So on opening day 2011, you see there aren't any catchers with 1 year experience. Then we get to, a number of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But it's interesting, very interesting, I think, that 15 catchers had more than 10 years experience in the major league, which just goes to show you when there's a quality catcher in the big leagues, he's going to stay there. He has a long lifespan. So there are actually some older catchers in the big leagues, which is surprising and interesting, and a lot of people probably don't understand that. The average age of the Major League Baseball catcher is 30 years old. Okay, so I thought that was a very interesting number, that the average age is going to be 30 years. And think it took you, 4.6 years once you got drafted to make it, and the average age is 30. So notice in 2011 on opening day, there weren't any catchers in the big leagues that were between 18 and 21. And then you can see the bulk of catchers is between the age of 26 and 29. And then there are definitely, we talked about a minute ago, some older catchers that are up to, I believe, 41 was the oldest. Opening day 2011. Now, again, average age is 30 years old for all Major League Baseball catchers. The average body type, I found this pretty interesting as well. The average height of an MLB catcher is 6 foot 1 inch, so slightly above 6 feet, and the average weight is 217 pounds. Now, there are 3 catchers that I found that are 6'1", or about 215. They all have slightly different body types, but they're all very, very close to the Major League average of 6'1", 217 of Rob Johnson, Ryan Doumit, and Josh Stoley. So that's pretty interesting fact that there are 3 guys that are right on the average. Along with that, there are only 6 catchers that weighed less than 200 pounds. So I think that's interesting to know, because most of the guys in the big leagues seem to be pretty durable, seem to be heavier guys. They seem to be thicker guys. The largest, or the heaviest, was Landon Powell. He was weighing 265 pounds. There are only 15 catchers that were under 6 feet tall. The tallest catchers were Matt Wieters and Joe Mauer, and they both stand at 6'5". One last thing. Do they bat right, left, or switch? You can see we have 62% of the catchers bat right-handed, only 15% bat left-handed, and then we have 23% that are switch hitters. So I thought that was another interesting fact, that most of the catchers in the big leagues hit right-handed. Kind of interesting fact to go along with some of the other things. So that's it for the average and the demographics of the 2011 Major League Baseball catchers. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this slideshow, please share it with others on Facebook and Twitter, or you can find it on catching-101.com. Thanks.